Hello and welcome to the 123rd episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill, and we got lots to talk about. It's been a really interesting week.
But I guess first let's apologize for last week. Our hosting site, who's been a very good hosting site for us, that does a really good job. Their post-production site shut down for 24 hours, and they were very backed up. And then we came through. I think all my audio was gone, so we want to apologize to Matt and to all of our listeners. The site gave us another free month of hosting, but it didn't do anything to help that last episode. So we want to apologize for that. Hopefully we can make sure that doesn't happen again somehow.
Yeah, it was really a shame because Matt was a great guest. So we'll bring Matt out another time to do another show with Matt.
Yeah.
And based upon what we saw this week of the draft in New Orleans, I think we need to bring Felicia back to talk to her about what's going on.
Oh, without a doubt.
So you being in New Orleans, let's start with that. How was it?
Well, first off, people were already excited because, I think we said last week, he's probably the most famous, exciting draft prospect since LeBron James. Based on social media and highlights and his physical appearance, so I think people were already hyped up. I think getting rid of Anthony Davis and getting that whole drama out of the way, and it looks like David Griffin won the trade, at least, theoretically as of now. And then I think his emotional response to being the first pick on TV was so genuine and heartfelt that I think people in New Orleans love that kind of, not that people probably everywhere love it, but, the genuineness and the heart and that's really what the city, after Katrina, that city's always been about that. And I think that just, put them even further into their,
And then I saw he was out in the community at a playground with a bunch of kids yesterday.
Yeah.
And they showed that looked great. He looked like he really wanted to be there. And it was impressive. His emotion was genuine, and all the people really excited about him being there. I think the Pelicans, this could be the best year in their attendance history.
I think it really could be too. I think if this city is ever going to embrace basketball, really embrace it, it's right now. Again, we don't know, as far as, how long it's going to last, but I think this is probably the best chance we've had, to get it. It's always going to be.
I'm real happy for David Griffin because he kind of, he ran afoul of the Cavs and got the exit, but he was great in Phoenix, and Phoenix hasn't been great since he left. So I'm hoping he has a great run in New Orleans, and hope he builds a championship team there.
And again, you look at, they have all those Laker picks. Brandon Ingram is an exciting talent, and when healthy, I think balls look pretty good. He still, I think, suffers from the fact that his dad just,
if you accept the fact he's going to be like Jason Kidd, and that's what you should. He can be a passer and a distributor like Jason Kidd, and whatever offense you get out of is going to be a bonus.
And he's an excellent defender. He doesn't get enough credit for that. Right now he does need to prove that he can actually stay on the court, though, because he has not been the healthiest of players.
But I can't think of a better place for LeVar Ball to surface than New Orleans. So it'll be kind of fun to see how that goes.
I think so.
So I'll talk about the draft a little bit because I was actually in Minneapolis with the Timberwolves, and I went to the draft. And I went to Minnesota's hosting of their own draft event. And, I got to call out the NBA a little bit. I know that there's these rules and regulations about you can't announce a trade until it's approved and yada, yada, yada. But they have to do a better job clearing up the mystique. Because I was there and there was when I walked in the building, I couldn't believe the buzz because the fans were so excited that the Timberwolves had made a move up. And so there were all kinds of speculation about who they were going to get. And they were talking. They wondered if this was the only move they were going to make for other moves. There's so much excitement. And they were selling some tickets and they were doing a lot of things, right?
Right.
And then when they make the pick and they think it's the Lakers making the pick for the Timberwolves, that people were looking at each other saying, well, is that our guy or why has he got a Lakers hat on? Is he our guy, not our guy? And then, we go through then with the other part of it where then they make a pick later on and it's supposed to be a guy going to the Suns, right?
Yeah.
And he's wearing the Suns hat. And he's wearing a Timberwolves hat. And so people are trying to figure out, is that our guy or not our guy? I might have said the Lakers before. I mean, wearing a Suns hat and then a Timberwolves. It's kind of crazy, but they need to really clear that up. It was such a lost moment emotionally. I just watched the air go out of the building because nobody understood who was what, and they weren't allowed to talk to their pick, Jason. They had their broadcasters and everybody there. They actually had people in Brooklyn, and they weren't allowed to talk to the pick. So it was a real downer.
With guys like Woj and everybody else on TV, like everybody knows what it is, you know.
Yeah,
so it's a mystery. Like we all know the trade is there. Just we're just standing here like, well, why can't we just? I don't know, you know.
It was crazy. I mean, I was really, I really felt bad for the Timberwolves because that's their guy now, and it was a high pick, and there was a lot of excitement, and the excitement went right out of the building. So,
oh, very much so.
Yeah, so that's one thing, but it was fun. I loved the Zion thing, and like you said, I loved the moments. I know the draft was around Father's Day, and it was so good to see those first three picks go up there with their father, except for Zion, he went up there with his mom and his little brother, and those are such powerful moments. I thought it was really good.
And John Morant and his dad, and showing him all the stuff growing up, and it just. I'm usually not a too much fan when they play all that in, but I thought it was very genuine and real, and it just made everybody more. I mean, the NBA is already sort of the league where people know their face the most, and I think this just if these guys become good players, like we already have this these moments, these histories with them.
Yeah, they really humanized the players. I thought it was really good. It was a lot of fun.
We had poor Bol. He fell quite a bit.
Yeah,
and then made it on top of that.
And so I get a side here. So Jason, in all the years I worked for the NBA, right?
Right.
In all the years I worked with these teams, on Friday when I was in Minnesota, they took me and I spent half an hour with Gersis Rosas, their new head of basketball. And it was one of the most refreshing experiences I've ever had. I mean, the guy is awesome, talking about how he's going to rebuild the team, talking about how he wants to be the best of everything, talking about how he wants to help the sales guys. I mean, it was an amazing thing to hear from a head of basketball operations, and amazing that somebody could take their time the day after the draft to spend a half hour with me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, yeah, I was really blown away. Really, really a good guy. I was impressed.
Nice.
So it's also my College World Series week, and I'm really happy that Vanderbilt made it. So Vanderbilt and Michigan are in the finals. I was hoping that Florida State would make it just because of Coach Mike Martin, but I thought his exit and the way they filmed him in the locker room after his last game was pretty. It's another very emotional but a very cool moment. They share that with us, and I thought it was really powerful. I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to get set to root for Vanderbilt now, starting tomorrow night, the best of three.
Very nice.
See what else. But I want to talk about the business thing. I want to talk about, and we talked about a little offline, is this proposed plan for the Rays to build a stadium in Montreal, a stadium in Tampa, or somebody build it for them, and play the first 40 games of the year and the exhibition games in Tampa, and then play the last 40 games, and I would assume the playoffs in Montreal.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds better than it is. I mean, and I live here in Tampa. I know that the first stadium that they were going to build in Ybor City was talking about $950 million to $1 billion with a roof, and now they're saying they wouldn't need a roof, and they could probably build it for $600 million. But do you want to spend $600 million for a team that's only going to be there for 40 games? And really, if you argue about it, the least meaningful of the 81 games, the first 40 games. So even if they went out and got you really excited, let's say they went 30-11, then they go to Montreal.
Yeah.
Not your team. They're your team, but you're not going to go see them play. So I don't think there's going to be a line of people throwing sponsorship money and wanting to make sure the Rays stay for 40 games. I just don't see it. And I also see it as a real interesting way of the Rays being able to say, well, this was our last ditch effort. You still didn't come out to a game, so we're going to move to Montreal, or they're buying time for Nashville to put a stadium together. But there's some Machiavellian stuff at work.
Yeah.
But I just don't see it. And part of it is you got to blame I don't blame it on the Rays that they're going to move. I blame it on the people here that they want to go to the baseball games.
No. And I misinterpreted it. When I first just read the headline, I sort of thought it would be like a cool, like, here's your sister city in Canada. And it would be like, every couple of homestands was going to be switching. So not, like I said, when I just read the headline, I was like, oh, that sounds, split up baseball a little bit more, make the hotter games, some of the summer ones, a little more homestands in Montreal, some of the spring games, mix it up a little bit. But the way like they said, the way they do it doesn't make a lot of sense.
And then for the player's perspective, that would mean, if you got kids, you got to move again. You got to go where you're coming from, move to Tampa,
smart,
move to Montreal, and then move home again, or wherever you live. And I just don't see the Players Association really going big buckets for that either. But I'm still convinced that in 2027 that they're going to move. But the other thing is, I was at a St. Paul Saints game the other night, and I saw my good friend Mike Beck, who owns the team, and he used to work for the Rays. And we were talking about it, and he said, the Rays can move anytime they want. All they have to do is pay off the rent for the last 7 years of the lease. So if somebody wanted to give them the last 7 years of the rent to help them move, they can move now. And Mike said that's probably a better course of action for them to do that than just keep dying a slow, lingering death.
It does, like I said, when we both lived in Tampa. You still do, obviously. They don't care about that. I mean, you don't see a lot of Tampa Bay. You don't hear a lot of Tampa Bay chat. When you go to certain cities, like here in New Orleans, obviously we've had some Pelican talk lately, but it's Saints all the time. You go to Pittsburgh, it's Pittsburgh sports all the time. In Tampa, I don't hear a lot of Rays conversations, see a lot of Rays hats or anything. No, I
think the people that are loyal to the Rays are very, very, very loyal. Yeah. But there's not that many of them, and they're next to last in the league in attendance, only doing better than Miami.
It's true.
So that's an indictment of baseball in Florida.
It is. They also had, I think I spoke on this maybe at one point early in our podcast. That's the worst professional sporting venue I've ever been to in my life. The Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not attractive looking. The food selection, like everything about it, is just generic and subpar. So
if you live in Tampa, it's tough to get to.
And it's tough to get to. Yeah. So I mean, it's hard to build like I don't want to go too Pittsburgh centric, but I mean, when you go to PNC Park, like that's a beautiful day at the park. You got the bridges. You've got some stuff. You've got stuff to do besides the game. It's a really beautiful spot. Like, it's interesting. There's things to do. Whereas you go to the Trop and it's just, you got that giant white roof overhead and everything is just so plain and
not fun. Not fun.
Now, would Montreal be a logical place for them to go full time, or where do you think where's the next baseball?
I don't know. I don't know about that either because it didn't work in Montreal the last time.
Right.
But it's a large market, and so we'd have to see. I mean, I would not be gung ho. I would probably be more in line with Nashville or Portland.
Now, but if we would move to north, why not move to I mean, I guess travel is one thing, but either Puerto Rico or Mexico, or have a professional team down in one of those places where they
I just don't know if they could generate the revenue.
Okay. Because they have the interest.
Yeah, but I don't know if they want to pay those kind of prices. And Puerto Rico is so devastated now, the economy after the hurricane and everything else. Mexico City may be viable, but, again, I don't know if you can have a lot of ball players who want to live in Mexico City. I mean, that could be an issue. I mean, they already talked about if they lived in Montreal, the taxes.
Right.
Or somewhere other than being in the States. That you'd have to pay them. It'd have to have a special kind of a wage deal.
Right. No, it makes sense. It's just, you try to think of someplace, but.
Yeah. But, I like the fact, staying on, let's get back and talk about schedules. We're talking about, obviously, the number of games. The NBA now is really looking into reducing the number of games. And I think it's a great idea.
And again, I think you can make that money up. I mean,
you just charge more for the games, but the games mean more.
But the games mean more, and it becomes more of a, yeah, I have less chances to see the team, so it becomes much more of a, I need to do this now kind of a situation as opposed to, the little wait.
Yeah.
Because again, I never miss I shouldn't say never miss. I rarely miss a chance to watch the Steelers play football. But I only have, 16 chances a year, give or take.
Right.
So it's such a, and again, like all the arguments they say, it does feel like every game. It's just, everything here, everything there. So I guess we talk a little NBA chaos free agency, right?
Yeah.
So if you were a franchise, given his injury history and his apparent attitude, would you want Kyrie? As a Knicks fan, I don't want Kyrie on the Knicks. As good a player as he is, I've seen enough that I don't want him there.
I mean, it hasn't worked out the last two stops.
No. And even when he was in Cleveland, like when he was first coming up, like there was a lot of
yeah, I mean, he obviously has issues.
He's a very quick person, and
he turns it on. To me, sometimes he's into it, sometimes he's not.
Right.
But they say that about Kawhi too, and look what happened. No, I wouldn't want to spend my money on Kyrie unless I had a veteran team that could kind of have strong enough presence there to control him and make him become part of that nucleus. I mean, I could see him going to I could see maybe the Lakers wanting him.
Yeah,
if I was the Knicks,
it makes the most sense.
Those young players, I wouldn't want him. I wouldn't want him at the Knicks. No way.
No, and I wouldn't want him on the Nets. I mean, as much as I'm not sure what to think about D'Angelo Russell, like I know he's only 23, and I hate to go too analytical, but some of it looks like maybe he's getting better and he's going to be a good player, but he doesn't get to the free throw line. Some of those things, but I don't know if I'd want to mess with, because I think the Nets have a nice young nucleus and they're like a team on the come up, and I don't know if that's where I want to put my money.
Exactly. Some real things to think about.
If I'm any,
do you sign? If you're the Knicks, do you write the big check to Kevin Durant and try and get him to come and sit out for a year?
I think if I'm any team in the NBA, I write the big check to Kevin Durant. I know he's a 7-footer. And it's a big issue, but I feel like he's such a draw, such a name, and you ease him back in, and I make that move no matter who I am in the NBA. Golden State, definitely.
How about Klay Thompson?
Again, Klay Thompson's a definite. I mean, I think he's still young enough. I think he'll bounce back. He's got a good history of staying healthy. I think he bounces back from this, and he's good. Although he said his dad has come out and basically said he doesn't want to leave where he's at, which would be nice for them. They still get brothers, and they get almost a year. They get like a free pass for a year, and then they can come back and be remotivated.
And again, your conversation about one of the unintended consequences of getting hurt like this is you're probably going to get a good draft pick next year.
Yeah. Like if I'm them next year, I'm being very cautious with Steph. I don't want Steph to become James Harden for a year and try to drag that team to a 7th or 8th seed.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure Steph has, a nice 31 minutes a game. I'm keeping on a minute restriction, Because I think
yes, but the confounding variable for all this is they open that new building in San Francisco.
Yeah.
The most expensive building in the league and the most expensive ticket prices in the league.
Yeah.
So, but they've had a really good run. So if they can see the big picture and understand that it's going to be probably a little bit different for a year, then maybe it all works out.
Yeah, like you said, it is probably the worst time for all these injuries in the move. So at least if you were coming back with the trio of Draymond, Steph, and Klay all healthy, even without Kevin Durant, I think you're okay, ratings-wise and record-wise. But, with just Steph and whatever version of Draymond we get next year.
Yeah.
Because we had 2 different ones this year. The other big story, I think, is the Houston story. It seems like there's a lot of chaos down there. Like you're hearing stories that the owner does not like Chris Paul's contract, complains about it openly all the time. D'Antoni is unhappy with his contract and the fact that they fired his assistants and Daryl Morey brought in his own assistants to help him. the potential.
And supposedly the Chris Paul and James Harden aren't getting along.
Right. And
despite the State Farm commercial.
Despite the State Farm commercial. Well, I like the new one where they yell at each other. I think it's pretty funny.
Well, maybe he is mad at him for burning up his kitchen.
Makes sense. But again, I don't think there's any way in the world you can trade for that contract. Chris, not that I don't, like I said, I've never been a Chris Paul fan regardless, but he's on the wrong side of 30. He's a 6 foot and under point guard with a injury history. And he's on the hook for an insane amount of money over the last 3 to 4 years, including the $44 million player option his last year, which he's probably obviously going to have to take.
Oh, yeah.
But I also don't think, I know they've had more success than most teams with this, high usage Harden thing. But I feel like Harden gets way too much credit. Like they said, one of the things Chris Paul was complaining about is that, when it is time for, it was almost like with Russ for a while in Oklahoma City, where when James Harden has the ball, he basically holds the ball for 20 seconds and then shoots or passes where he feels like it. And then when he's not going to have the ball, it's like he's still standing around, but he's not moving on offense. He's resting. And now you're playing 4-on-5. And it's like, I think it must be fun to be the only guy in the offense like that, but I don't think it's sustainable. And I think, when he's getting all those bullshit calls all year long where he's flopping and, you're getting teams on the back and back and he's getting all the calls, then you can put together a pretty good season. But when you get to the playoffs where you have the best refs and teams that know exactly what you're going to do, I don't think you can win that way.
No.
But I don't know if you've now created a monster James Harden. Like, can he play another way?
Well, yeah. And if you're going to pay him all that money, you want him to play another way.
Yeah. And I think their only hope of getting rid of Chris Paul would somehow be LeBron James and the Lakers doing some kind of salary swap. But I don't really know if you'd want to do that even if you're the Lakers. I think the Lakers, no matter, I don't even think they're that dumb.
It depends on if Kawhi goes to the Clippers and the Lakers feel they got to do something else.
It's true. Well, supposedly, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, I think that's who said this, Kawhi is considering other teams than just those two.
As he should.
As he should.
He'll never get a better deal than he'll get this year.
No, and he's now a 3-time champion.
I believe so.
A 2-time Finals MVP. He's one in the East. He's one in the West. He's 27. I mean,
only player to do so.
He's got house money the rest of his career for the most part.
Yeah,
it's a nice place.
But he really did elevate his game during that time.
Yeah. And again, I think if he was healthy, because he clearly looked like he was playing hurt for the second half of the season and throughout the NBA playoffs, somehow he still destroyed people. But I think giving his leg injury history, I don't think he could do a 1-and-1 and run it back with Toronto and then either opt out or stay in. I think he's got to go for the big money right now.
I do too. I think he's got to. I think with his history and his age and everything else and the miles on him, that he should take the deal he gets, and that should be the deal.
Yeah.
They saw an amazing moment yesterday. Albert Pujols hitting a home run in St. Louis to get a standing ovation.
Yeah, that was really nice.
I've always said, and I didn't like living in St. Louis when we lived there.
No.
Because everybody wanted to know where I went to high school, and because I didn't go to high school in St. Louis, I didn't fit in. But I've always said that the best baseball fans in the country are the St. Louis fans.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that. They're the most knowledgeable, they're the most loyal, and they bleed for that team. But I thought that was just total class. I mean, he got the standing O, and they're popular players that come back, they do that for.
Yeah.
Even when, David Freese came back from the Pirates and he got a standing ovation. But to get a standing ovation and then get another standing ovation when he hit a home run. Now, if the home run would have beat the Cardinals, I don't know if he would have got a standing ovation. But it made it 4-1. It was the one run. So, and they had another run later on. Still lost 4-2. Angels still lost 4-2. But it was fun to see that kind of treatment. So I'm going to turn the game on tonight on ESPN because it's on national TV from St. Louis. And I'll watch what happens tonight.
Yeah.
But total class moment.
And along with their fans, unfortunately, as a Pirate fan, they're an incredibly well-run organization as well.
I say it all the time. St. Louis, Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh are all the same size.
Yeah.
Why are two successful and one's not?
It's true.
Goes to ownership.
It does.
You got to be willing to write the check.
Because I can't remember the last time the St. Louis Cardinals were a bad baseball team.
When we lived there.
Yeah.
Because when we lived there, the Pirates were in first. The Pirates won the division every year when we lived in St. Louis.
That was scary.
And the Cardinals were like,
yeah.
The Cardinals were like fourth or fifth, and they still outdrew the Pirates.
It's incredible.
Just a good baseball market. It's been a baseball market for years. I think it's the second most World Series championships after the Yankees.
I'm pretty sure you were correct.
And speaking of which, the Yankees set a record for the 25th consecutive game with a home run. And they said the record went back to the 40s, which shocked me because I would have thought the year that Mantle and Maris were going after the Babe Ruth record, when Mantle hit 55, I think, and Maris hit 61,
yeah.
I thought that would have been the year they set the most consecutive home run record. So I was really surprised.
No, definitely, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
But the Yankees might run and hide from everybody now to get everybody healthy. I mean, they were just a bruising team. They look like a football team.
Yeah, they're pretty scary.
They are very scary. Let's see what else. Got any entertainment moments? Any good food moments this week?
I sadly did not have any good food moments. I did hear something crazy though on the radio. I guess this is kind of this is an entertainment / weird trivia moment. So on satellite, the radio we get on channel 93, Netflix radio is now Netflix comedy, and they play little 3 to 8 minute bits from all the Netflix comedy specials, which there are a ton of. And they just play stand up, unlike Comedy Central Radio that plays all these weird talk shows. Which is kind of a nice thing, a nice little break in the car from time to time. So here's the trivia that I found fascinating. Do you know still to this day what the number one selling comedy album is?
Eddie Murphy Raw?
Jeff Foxworthy, You Might Be a Redneck.
Whoa.
And it sold more combined than Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby.
That's incredible.
Like, I was shocked when I heard that. I was like, it explains a lot about our country, but I was like, wow. That wouldn't have been, you would have given me 100 guesses. I don't know if I would have ever got there.
No, my guesses would have been in order: Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby.
Right, and I might have thought, maybe Steve Martin or one, or some random comedy, like some weird like musical comedy act from the 40s or something might have popped that that everybody owned, or a record or something. Yeah, would not have thought that. Let alone more than Bill Cosby's best album and Richard Pryor's best album combined. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I got a couple entertainment things for you.
Okay.
So I've been watching on DirecTV. I think the station is called We or something like that. But they started showing Route 66, which is kind of a Jack Kerouac kind of a show with two guys driving around the country in a Corvette and stopping all these different places, having these different adventures, doing these different things happen.
Okay.
It is one of the only serials that was filmed entirely on location.
Huh.
And you knowing how hard it is to film.
Yeah.
Can you imagine in the days when you film 20, 25 episodes, can you imagine doing that in a different city every week?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the other day I watched a show in Boston and then I watched a show in Pittsburgh. And, as I sit there, I said, wow, they really are in Pittsburgh. Wow, they really are in Boston. And I was thinking, okay, but the entire show was shot on location. Not just the scenes, the entire show.
Huh.
We looked it up last night. I was blown away. Which is probably why it was only on for 4 years, because that would be a real monumental task.
Yeah, it's almost like you're like a circuit. You're bringing your entire crew and cast everywhere.
And they're traveling every week in those days, there was like 20 some episodes a season.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of the shows were shot on the route of Route 66, but some weren't. Like there's no Route 66 in Boston or in Pittsburgh, but they start off in the east and move their way west.
Yeah.
My other moment was, I think I mentioned on the show last week, or I told you offline, that I was starting to read Dr. Sleep, which was the sequel to The Shining.
Yes.
Because the movie's coming out. I blew through it in 2 days. It was unbelievable. I enjoyed it just like I would have enjoyed The Shining.
Really?
It's an update of Danny Torrance, and it's a really, really good story. It's kind of like if you crisscross The Shining with Stand By Me.
Okay.
A little bit. Or It. No, more of It. And you've got these really good character development, good story, good believable story, no monster. But it's really good. So I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward now to seeing the movie. And in the notes, Stephen King makes a point in the intro and in the prologue about how Danny was saved by Jack Torrance, which doesn't come out in the Stanley Kubrick movie. You know, in the book, if you've never read The Shining, I'm going to ruin the end for you, but go read it.
You've had 40 years.
In the book, Jack Torrance blows up the Overlook Hotel because he knows it's trying to get Danny. So he blows up the hotel, sacrifices his life, blows up the hotel. That never comes out in the Stanley Kubrick movie.
No.
It's like the hotel blows up and it kills Jack and tries to kill everybody. But it's not like Jack doesn't have this moment at the end where he's trying to save Danny, and which I thought was core to the book.
Yeah,
and it is. So Stephen King really makes sure you understand that point as you go through, because Danny's an alcoholic like Jack, and there's a lot of things that go on, but he points out that always goes back to pointing out that thing. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then I was with my good friend Mike Veck the other night, like I said earlier, and saw some of the promotions at St. Paul Saints. And when they brought out the race, instead of the pierogi race or the hot dog race, they had 3 eyeballs running, and it was sponsored by an optometrist. And I just thought it was hilarious. And they also have a pig, and they race the pig the entire year. And so they bring the pig back every game and see how much weight the pig gained. And I guess at the end, I don't know if they all eat them or what they do, but what happens to the pig. But the pig, they have a different pig every year.
Yeah.
But a fun experience, very affordable, great food. Didn't know one player, didn't care, but I had a good time. Beautiful night.
Very nice.
But I didn't have a food moment either, Jay.
It's not good. Like I said, I went to a place down here that looked like it had a lot of promise, but it was really disappointing. So I won't even mention them. I told you off.
Well, I'm flying to LA tomorrow and going to dinner with your brother tomorrow night. And he's taking me some old school Italian, so maybe I'll have a good place. Hopefully I'll have a good food moment for next week.
Yeah, there's a couple places I'm looking to try this week, and I've been trying new restaurants pretty frequently. So, taking advantage of New Orleans. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll have a food moment next week, yes.
Well, I'll reach out to Felicia, see if she wants to come back on the show even for a little bit next week.
Okay.
And we can get an update on the Pelicans.
And again, we apologize for last week's audio technical difficulties.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you'll be on again next week.